What's going on? Let's go. First and foremost, until Blue Chew calls me up, it sponsors me, I'm going to give my own little anti-ad. So from the good friends at Polymarket, wanted to, give a shout out to the biggest, scam artist and wealth transferring tool of the elite. You can imagine it's a predictive market, right? So everybody who is literally making the fucking decisions is the ones that are benefiting on it, and they're just stealing your money. So this goes out to our friends, and a couple examples is at the Super Bowl, you had Lady Gaga's crew, I'm pretty sure, made a hefty amount of money on betting that Lady Gaga was going to be the one who was the surprise performer. How did they know? Oh my God, how convenient is that? Also, and then you see another example here is there was a bet that the Ayatollah would be out of office by some certain date. And, people took that bet. And when he got killed out of office, I would imagine he's no longer the leader of Iran, that didn't count. And they changed the rules that he had to be voted out and that he couldn't die. So interesting how many people got fucked probably from that. And then the last but not least, did anybody see any poly markets for if Bibi Netanyahu is going to be alive or dead? I didn't. So it's just convenient that the one topic you can't bet on is our good friends over in Israel. But that's not what we're talking about today. I did want to start with a little advertisement, again, until Blue Chew calls me, because that's the one. I did want to talk a little bit about consciousness. And this is the first solo rant because I know I put a lot out there. I have the 2 separate boards, 12 minutes total of consciousness data, call it, where we're talking about not only what the theory is and how we interact with it, but also mechanically, what is it? And I figured it might not hurt to do like more of a long form discussion with myself on what that actually means to me. Now, I clearly don't fucking know. Nobody knows. I haven't done all the mathematical proofs to try to push this out. I'm more of a philosophical guy, right? So I'm going to take that angle and I'm going to at least try to eloquently explain what it is that I believe to be true. Now, one of which is going to start from, let's start from the mechanical side of things on the quantum side. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of background information there and then move towards the how we interface with it. By the way, if you haven't already, I have a Patreon channel, so feel free to check that out. It'll be in the description below. However, I have no idea. So shout out Frank for being the first one to donate. Good looks, Frank. You're the man, dude. But yeah, that'll help me at the very minimum provide a little bit better experience for you, and at the maximum give me the time and supplement my income enough where I can make boards every single day. Because unfortunately, as you all probably are aware, I have a day job and I like it and I do really well and it's pretty good. But I like this better. It's pretty fun. Outside of that, happy Easter. And yeah, I wrote that motherfucker backwards because it's mirrored in the thing. So, and if you're just listening on Spotify, you can't see that, but you should definitely watch on YouTube because I'm a handsome fella. So anyways, with that out of the way, some housekeeping items. I'm going to go through the quantum side of this. And long and short of it, we're going to start with the ZPF. Now, is anybody familiar with the ZPF? No, cool. We don't know what that is. Cool. So the 0-point field is essentially a medium. And when I say medium, it's the same way that you're listening to this podcast, right? Either through Spotify is your medium, YouTube's your medium. If you got clips online, that's your medium. It's whatever the information is dispersed through. Medium is essentially like a fish swims through water. That's its medium. And a bird flies through air. That's its medium. Radio waves, they go through air, right? That's its medium. Now, when you think of the 0-point field, what that is referencing is an experiment that was done where they had 2 metal plates, and they did it, I think, back in like the frickin' 50s or 60s. So this is old news. But they had 2 metal plates they put in a vacuum. When you have a vacuum, you don't have any matter going around, right? You just have kind of frequency and light and photons and things like that. And on paper, if the hypothesis was that matter is required to, force things together, right? Like if there was no matter, then it would just exist in a vacuum and there wouldn't be any force. universe. But in this case, there was no matter in this vacuum. They're super close together, almost touching. And the fact that there was a wide enough space on the outside and not very wide in the inside means that it pressed it together. And what this proved is that there is a 0-point field or energy that still exists, quantum energy that still exists where there's no matter. And the idea is that this is everywhere, all around us, all at once. And it's more of the connective tissue to everything in the fucking universe, whether that's like light photons all the way up through, in my opinion, consciousness. Now, Hal Puthoff, who is the guy from Project Stargate, remote viewing, he was part of Ingo Swann and the other guy. God, I can never fucking remember that guy's name. But he has this theory that this 0-point field is essentially the medium of all existence, of all consciousness, of inertia, of gravity, of time itself, of consciousness. And, again, I kind of gave the example of inertia, right? When you are in a vacuum and you still accelerate, you still feel that drag. And that's because of that 0-point field, because you're going through this quantum energy. So it still has drag on you. It's like aerodynamics, but it's just no air. And then if you get to the gravity and the time, those two are absolutely correlated. The next piece of this is the invention of the MRI. And the reason that's important is because it proves for the first time that information can travel through this ZPF. And so what happened is they take this really strong magnet, which, by the way, like, imagine what this does to your body. Like, MRIs are kind of fucking weird, but you have this really strong magnet, right? And it points down at your body, where all of your hydrogen atoms then point back up to that magnet, and they're designed specifically to attract these hydrogen atoms. And then what happens is it sends a radio wave to essentially like throw them out of whack. And when they're trying to figure out which way is up again, that's determined by what they're surrounded in their structure. And so when it points back up, then it communicates back their spin, their electromagnetic properties, and some other shit. And so then there's some really finely tuned sensors that will track which hydrogen atoms came back quicker, then slower, then etc. And it can piece together then an image based on the structure around these. And so like an MRI takes one slice at a time, and then it puts it all together for a 3D image of your brain. And so this was proven that this information essentially exists, and it exists within an atomic level that is accessible through this 0-point field. And the theory of the quantum hologram theory is that it is everywhere all at once, coming from every atom. And it's the matter of accessing that information that's the difficult part. And so I think it's Ed Mitchell and Ray Hernandez were some of the founders of this theory. Ed Mitchell had this feeling of euphoria. He was an astronaut when he was coming back down. He could see the entire globe. Like, everybody is all flat earthy. I still am a round earther. But you could see the entirety of this globe as he's coming back into the atmosphere. And he just felt this like euphoric feeling of being connected to everything. And he like spent years trying to understand what that feeling was. And he got to like some Hindu thing about just being connected to everything and everyone in love. And so he just went down this rabbit hole of trying to understand what the fuck that was. And that's where he stumbles. He believes that it's the ZPF, the 0-point field, that contains all of this data from everything that expands past space and time, right? Like it's like rings on a tree, right? Or if you are familiar with logs in IT and cybersecurity, it's a SIM, a System Event Information Manager, where if you click clack on your computer, every keystroke, every click, every like tab you open, it sends to a server. And somebody can take those logs, that's what you call it, and send it to this SIM, which are billions every day. If you have like 100 employee company, you are going through 100 billion logs every month, right? And it's like, how do you make sense of any of that? And that's where AI is now making a really big jump into it. But it's similar, right? Like whenever your atoms move, it transmits energy and it transmits information back into the 0-point field about what's around it, what's happening, what was a state change, was it observed again, and we'll get into that. But once that information is out there, it transcends space and time. It can be accessible everywhere because it's the connective tissue, and it can be accessible from any when, because at the end of the day, like, consciousness is what we're tapping into to make sense of things, and time is only subjective, like I mentioned with gravity. If you want to think of it back to maybe some of the other theories, is like we tune in through like our heart. Our heart sends more signals to our brain than our brain sends to our heart. Fun fact. And through heart coherence, where you have not a metronomic heartbeat, the more metronomic, the more predictable your heartbeat is, the more stressed and like fear induced you are. You want it to be a little bit sporadic. And that shows good heart coherence. And when I think it's like a 3 to 6 foot radius around you, electromagnetic field, that when you're in contact with other people, that good vibes, right? That's kind of the way we describe it. Good vibes can travel and can influence other people's heart coherence. And that's like, maybe if you've gone to like a comedy show and you're all fucking zoned in and you guys are all just like laughing, having a good time, like nobody's stressed. Like you don't even remember what the fuck like your life is about because you're so dialed in. It's like hypnosis. And so this heart coherence mixed with tuning our DNA and like the frequency of our DNA, I believe, is how we tap into the 0 point field. Now, I'm also a believer of evolution. I think we've evolved to mute a lot of the noise that we experience within the 0 point field, similarly to the extent that we choose to mute or not pay attention to the wide spectrum of electromagnetic waves, and we only see, what is it, like 300 nanometers to 700 nanometers. I'm going to totally fuck that up. Don't make fun of me. But that's like, where you get to like violet to red, right? The longer wavelengths are the red and the shorter wavelengths are the violet. And outside of that, like if you get to the more shorter ones, you get gamma rays. Like we can't see fucking gamma rays. But if you get to the longer ones, that's microwaves, right? And so they exist. We know they're there. We can't pick up on them. And so I just find it interesting that it's something similar, right? Like throughout evolution, whether we were Anunnaki hybrids and they merged our DNA with them, and like we used to have all these abilities to control how we interface with this 0 point field and we lost it, or if it's a stoned ape theory where we ate a bunch of fucking mushrooms and we learned how to walk because, climate change took out the forest and the only food supply was underneath which is I think psilocybin mushrooms, and then all of a sudden these apes are getting better visual acuity and they have better leadership skills and better communication skills and better creativity, and all of a sudden those are the leaders in their tribe, so to speak, and they start working together, and that's how we ended up getting here. That's Terrence McKenna. Or if it's just traditional fucking evolution, man, like single cell organisms all the way through Homo erectus to Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, and our different, adaptations and benefits in each like domain, weighing out whatever environment we're in. And Homo sapiens just happen to be the most cooperative and dangerous, and so we just fucking took over everywhere. Like that's the other theory, where regardless of how you end up here, you still have to interact with your environment. And if you are taking in everything all at once from everyone and everywhere, you can't do that. And so again, we have this built-in filter. Our DNA has tuned over millions of years to only interact with the things that we need, which is our individual consciousness, which is how we have intuition and instinct, and how we can build a model of the future, right? Like intelligence by any measure is how can you predict the future, more or less. Like, do you have good ideas that could pan out, or could you predict what this action could lead to? Causation, correlation of your actions, behaviors to outcomes, right? Like how far in advance, that's like chess. Like how many moves in advance can you predict? And that might be a measure of intelligence. There's also emotional intelligence, right? Like how can you read faces and emotions and understand how your actions affect others? And that's empathy and sympathy and things like that. Again, all of these we tap into from the 0 point field, because these are not things that like we consciously try to do. Like you don't consciously try to breathe. You essentially piece these things together as they come to you, and you're like, my gut's just telling me this, right? Like, and you trust that gut because usually it's fucking right. And that's why you can tell Erica Kirk's lying her ass off and nothing makes sense, because you look at her eyes and you're like, dude, what is... And so long story short, we've evolved to filter this shit out. But maybe this is why you got monks that never speak and they take a vow of silence, because they've meditated so much that they've elevated their consciousness, and as soon as they fucking talk about it, it goes away, right? Or it's just the process of meditation, of eating healthy, of avoiding alcohol, avoiding hard drugs. You don't want to do, like depressants and things like cocaine and Adderall. Like, dude, like it's not natural, man. And I've done it all, man. Not cocaine. I haven't done that. I have done DMT. I've done mushrooms. Admittedly, I've done LSD once. I had a really bad experience, but I'm sure it's great. But at the end of the day, like, that's when you start to tap into these different fields, and you're like this shit exists, and it's not a hallucinogen, dude. Like, you are legitimately unlocking something else, whether that's emergent in your brain, like Penrose's theory is that when you see, like, you're doing quantum computing in your brain. And one thing, just so you understand what that is it's traditional computing is you have two qubits. You have a 1 and a 0, right? It can either be 1 or 0. Now, quantum computing is when you have a superposition within one qubit. So if you have one qubit, it can be both 0 and 1 at the same time. It can balance multiple probabilities at the same time. And as you add on additional qubits, that's where it exponentially increases the amount of computing power you can do. Now, Penrose believed that we were doing a quantum computing within our microtubules, which are parts of our neurons in our brain. And he theorized that it's the ORC-OR model. He theorized that these quantum computings essentially are taking probabilities of observations and compressing them into some sort of reducing that superposition down to a single outcome. And that's where he believes emergent consciousness comes from, right? So where Thomas Campbell comes in then is he theorizes, I got here somehow, hold on. See, this is the fucking problem with rants, dude. I was talking about, no, okay, yeah, whatever. So that's the emergent theory of consciousness. When you start talking about Thomas Campbell, where he's talking about it's all around us, it's that 0-point field, Hal Puthoff, it's that 0-point field, it's everything, it's the connective tissue. We are actually tuning into it. There it is. And when we have our meditation in place, we're not doing hard drugs, we're sleeping good, we are trying to be thoughtful of our ego, because that's a huge one, man. Like, if you are totally focused on your ego and you're not able to dissolve who you are, put yourself in other people's shoes and see different perspectives and balance those perspectives at the same time, you are short-sighted. It's a skill you have to practice, but the more that you can do that, the more you start to elevate your consciousness to be able to tap into, call it intuition, call it fucking non-human intelligence giving you creativity. Like, if you look back at all the inventions that are out there, a lot of them attributed to, I don't know where the fuck this came from. I got this idea. It came to me in a freaking cold sweat. And even like, there's this gentleman, Tim Taylor, he's in NASA, he's working with the government, he goes to the Vatican, he was in Diana Pasulka's American Cosmic book. He has over 40 patents that he unequivocally says that was contributed from non-human intelligence connecting with his consciousness and giving him ideas. 40 patents of like biotechnology and advanced technology. So at the end of the day, this all starts to correlate around tapping into the consciousness field, and instead of it being emergent from us. And so what that 0-point field then offers us, if you think of the quantum hologram theory again, is that there is this sim or this log aggregate of everything that's happened past, present, future, all around the universe. These could be dimensional, right? And that's where, like, if you take a substance, you take DMT, you take psilocybin, you take LSD, like, you unlock that doorway where then not only are you accessing things that you're not privy to because that filter's in place, but you're also broadcasting yourself to these folks who normally think that you don't know they exist, and or they can't see you. And so when you broadcast that wavelength or that consciousness frequency, you start to then draw the attention of these entities, these aliens. And you'll notice that anybody who has an experience, it doesn't stop there. They have experiences and it gets higher in frequency, right? So I just find it super interesting that not only does this all make sense to me, and especially if you then compress it back into the IT terms, if it's a log aggregator, we're in this single existence as a user with access controls and permissions into what we can view naturally, and then through, like, call it hallucinogens, drugs, meditation, then you can start to access these higher dimensions or permission escalations. You can start to do things like remote viewing, which maybe you got a certain log source from a time and a place. They were always giving these people like Hal Puthoff and them and Ingo Swann, they were giving them coordinates and times, which is like, that is what that is, right? So look at these coordinates, look at this log source at this time, Mars, million years ago, right? And, or if you want telepathy, I'm fucking remote desktoping into your brain, like your consciousness, and you and I are going to have a conversation through the mind. And that's where then you see like these non-human intelligence where they are able to do that because again, they're higher level intelligence. Like I think we're dormant, dude. Like I think we have just lost our ability to tap into that. And again, back to the Anunnaki thing, if we are my buddy JB, the first podcast, was telling me that like that was their thing, is like they would be able to not only like jump from one planet to another immediately, like teleportation. What's the difference? Like if you can access the 0 point field and materialize from one place to another, again, just looking at times and log sources, like you can theoretically do anything, right? And then you would be able to, they would be telepathic. And if they made us through genetic engineering, then what's to say that we didn't take some of that with us, right? And back to like the Nephilim, like why were they so strong and threatened the Anunnaki? Well, maybe it's because they carried both the aggression of the Homo sapiens or Homo erectus and the communication and the cooperation, the strengths of our species, and also the mental fortitude and the consciousness abilities of an Anunnaki. So what I think is the best piece of this, right, is that Thomas Campbell, who is the big theory of everything, I think, I haven't read totally yet, but I think he's aligned with this method or this thought process, and he does draw a lot of comparisons to an information system. He calls it the larger consciousness system, right? Like that's your AWS, that's your cloud hosting. And then you have this 0 point field. This is your log aggregator. This is where everything exists and is happening on top of that larger consciousness system. And what he suggests is that it all trends towards low entropy, which entropy in this case is like high entropy is chaos, it's disorder, it's madness, and low entropy is harmony. It's like, imagine things that are easy, dude. You're sitting on a fucking beach and it's all love, dude. Like that's where we all want to be. Like we don't strive for chaos and madness and to be anxious all the time. Like we want to be in harmony, and so consciousness naturally goes towards that, which I think is a good thing, right? And what I think the biggest point here is that we are connected through this 0 point field. Every single one of us, we are tapping into the same existence, the same consciousness that makes up all of us. We are fractals of that. That is God in some sense. And if, whether Jesus and Catholicism and these religions are just trying to help you orient your consciousness collectively towards these values, or it could totally be wrong and the whole thing is correct. But in my mind, like that makes more sense, because if we all collectively believe something and then we take the actions on those beliefs, then those beliefs can somewhat become real. I'll take the example like the Area 51. Like there's many people who thought they were going to be able to storm Area 51 so much so that they showed up and tried. Like you can't do that by yourself. Like nobody would have the fucking right of mind to do that by yourself. You get enough people together and like, yeah, we can fucking do this. It's the same thing, man. Like when we all believe collectively that AI is going to take all of our jobs, and then you see the people who are making AI also believing that because we believe it, and there's people who invest in their companies and tell them it's going to happen. So they're like, yeah, well, we better be first, right? And then it happens. It's just like, so if we believe that we're going to have nuclear warfare because Israel wants to put together the prophecy and build the third temple from the King of Solomon days and do rituals and bring on the Messiah, well, enough people seem to believe that. And whether or not it's all legitimate beliefs or if it's all money or influence, it seems to be trending in that direction. So back to the collective consciousness, right? Whatever we all come together to believe happens. So if we can come together to believe something positive and meanwhile focus on our health, our well-being, we lower our egos, we get away from some of the mind share, like parasitic shit from Project Artichoke, which if you don't know what that is, look that up. It's a CIA operation where they admitted to being they were going to use chemicals on the population because they said the American people were too smart. So they're going to use chemicals on the population. They're going to put it in cigarettes and food and medications and all sorts of different things. And likely it didn't stop in the 60s in order for us to lower our frequency and probably get more power to the lower frequency beings, which is the occultism. It's the Aleister Crowley magic. It's the transgression through sex rituals and drugs and all of that. Like, that's why there's power in it, because again, they believe in it, and likely it's fucking real. Like, if you're doing crazy LSD and then you're cutting people's faces off and while they're still alive and drinking their blood, like, yeah, you might interact with some dark beings and entities and intelligences and things that are within the time and space of the ZPF, right? Like, and so if that exists, then why can't the other flip side of the coin exist, right? So, man, happy Easter. Yeah, so when you're in church on Sunday, maybe pray to the ZPF, right? Like, try to understand that there is a legitimate connection from your DNA, your heart, your mind to everything that's ever existed, your ancestors, all the way through my ancestors, through everybody around us collectively. And let's not let these occultists take over, because the Freemasons, they have a lot of money, man. It's the Rothschilds, it's the Zionists. I don't care. It's the truth. Like, they have a lot of money. They're perpetrating a lot of war crimes, including us in Iran and Lebanon. We are bombing a lot of people, like bombing schools, bombing children and families and innocent people, more so than we've had in the past. Like, we weren't perfect. And Gaza was a motherfucking nightmare. That was a genocide, but I thought it was at least Israel committing it and we were just funding it. But now I think we're kind of participating in some really dark shit. And I think that's, again, back to this messianic times. Like, I think these people legitimately believe that if they are to bring on the end times, this prophecy will fulfill. The one world government, which is a part of the Bible, the mark of the beast, which is a part of the Bible. And again, like, what are these stories? Is this AI going back in time so that it can establish itself, right? Through telling us what to do? And I don't know, man. Like, it's pretty straightforward. Like, you could see the writing on the wall. They're making these freedom cities where you can't leave. It's like a 15 minutes, everything you need. You don't need a car. By the way, if you want to buy anything, you have to have something in your hand that tells us your digital ID and social credit score. And Rantboard, he makes a lot of crazy fucking videos, so probably can't buy food. That's that central bank digital currency. That's the mark of the beast. You can't participate in e-commerce, can't participate in commerce if you don't have this. And so, I mean, it's just all connects back to this consciousness element, which is why I'm so fascinated with it and why I think it really bleeds into the quantum realm, because the quantum realm doesn't make any goddamn sense because you have superposition and entanglement. And the only way that it makes sense is through observation. And the only time that things are solidified is observation, which, again, back to Thomas Campbell, is probability waves. So if the probability wave is higher that we're going to go to nuclear war and have a one world government because more people believe it, because more people are observing it into reality and observing it become reality from the outside looking in, well, then it continues to happen. Now, if more people believe we can stop it and more people put their mouths where their minds are, because I know I'm not the only one. Dude, all I did was fucking start writing on a fucking whiteboard and people pay attention. And so that should give you power, because, like, I'm nothing special. I just like to learn this shit, and hopefully, like, I don't know, like, hopefully you guys get something out of it. But I really think that we have a responsibility as general population, because, again, there's a lot of us, not a lot of them, but they are all in, and not Jews. It's not Jews, it's Zionists, Christians, it's all sorts of people atheists, who all have these aligning missions to bring in the apocalypse, whether that's to kill as many people as possible, depopulate the planet, one world government, freedom cities, AI surveillance state, central bank digital currency, total control. Like, the same people may be going through different avenues. No, the same people might have different outcomes they want, but they're going through the same avenue, right? So keep that in mind, man, and pray. Don't pray in the sense where if you're not a believer in Christianity or whatever religion you adhere to, then pray in the sense of connecting with each other. Like, pray to me, man. Pray to the rest of us. That's the same shit when you, like, think of your friend and all of a sudden they call you. You're like, how the fuck I was thinking about you? Like, that's what that is. And if we could push that into a direction of positivity and health in all of these more forces of good, like, I genuinely think we can overcome evil. And I don't know what the fuck that looks like, but it starts here and it starts with baby steps. So yeah, again, if you want to support the podcast, if you want to support what I'm doing, that would be awesome. I got a Patreon. Otherwise, like, subscribe, follow, share with a friend. Rant Board on Instagram, RANT_BOARD. TikTok banned me once. I'm getting back there, but God, they nuke me every video, dude. X, I got no followers, but it's rant_board. Facebook just started there, Rant Board. I think it's still with a period in the middle. So I'm coming out with some merch. I got a buddy, misstep.us, MISSTEP.us on Instagram. Makes a fucking awesome clothes. Go support him. He's my roommate in college, and I have this suspicion, like, again, this belief, man, that one day he's going to be one of the most popular clothing designers on this fucking planet. So, go support him. He's going to help me make some merch, and we're going to get that in the store. But other than that, we'll see, man. I'm going to check. Do we have anybody in this chat right now? I don't think we do. So next time, if just post the live link, man, if you want to jump in, you got a chance. I will pull you up here, and we can have some fun because I want to talk to some crazy people like myself. Other than that, I really appreciate it. Like, if you're watching, hopefully some of that made sense. Probably none of it, but that's what this is, baby. That's the Rant Pod. So happy Easter. Have yourself a great weekend, and toodaloo, motherfuckers.